Okay, guys, this is going to be my review for the film The Aviator. The Aviator, I thought, was really good. It wasn't great in that it jumped around a lot, I should say, and there wasn't really one main story. But the thing is about The Aviator is this film is just so well made and acted, and that you can't hate it. And it's such great performances. It has a fantastic cast, where it's like Leonardo DiCaprio is the lead, but there's like supporting roles. Like there's only one true main character in this movie, and that's Howard Hughes. Leonardo DiCaprio. But there's great supporting roles. Obviously, Kate Blanchett, her one. I mean, she won two Oscars, but her first Oscar. Really, I think that Lord of the Rings put her on the map. But that really was like that was less than supporting. That was like a minor role. That was a cam. That wasn't even a cameo. That was a small role in Lord of the Rings. But this was like a supporting role. Audrey Hepburn, or not Audrey Hepburn, Catherine Hepburn. That's the other one. Catherine Hepburn is like an iconic actress playing an iconic figure, and so I think it was like on that level it worked. It's the performances, and I think overall it's so well made. The plane stuff is so well made, and it's so well crafted by Martin Scorsese, and the time period is so interesting. It's so well shot, and so I think it's very vibrant. Where every scene is enjoyable because it's so well made and acted. That see, at the end of the day, I think what can make a scene, and it's not that there's a bad script. See, the thing is, I guess the big criticism I would have is less necessarily me saying that the film is bad, or less of me saying the script is bad, or less of me saying it's directed bad or acted bad, because believe me, it's great performances, great directing, and I really do think overall a great script. But the problem is the structure, where there's no real story to it, because on the one hand, it's about it. See, it's like the way I guess I describe it is it's about Howard Hughes' rise and fall, but it's not, because at the end of the day, this movie kicks off, besides the opening scene where he's going through the quarantine. The opening scene was fascinating because you're like, what is he doing saying quarantine? But then you figure out he has this weird speech repetition thing, and you're like, oh, that's what he says quarantine to kind of get him out of the whole speech thing. But other than that, it kicks right off. Not of him rising up to fame. No, he's already in the middle of making a movie. So it's like, it's not like it's like about his rise and fall, like a Citizen Kane or Goodfellas, even if you wanted to go within Martin Scorsese, because like kind of those films, like a Citizen Kane or like a Goodfellas. I mean, they're two different films, but both Citizen Kane and Goodfellas are about the rise and fall of their main character, where it ends badly for them. But at the end of the day, it's about their rise and fall. But this wasn't about Howard Hughes' rise and fall. It was more of his rise. It was more of him at his pinnacle and going down. So it's like this film assumes that he made movies, he got famous, and it jumps around a lot. Where you see him making what's that Hell's movie? He made Angels of Hell or whatever. He makes his movie that comes out in 1930, and in the next scene he's with Katharine Hepburn, and she references the 1932 election. So this was at least a 2-year time jump, but they don't really say the timelines. They just throw in little lines of dialogue to get you to understand. And I think this film also suggests that you know Howard Hughes that like to a decent level, because you're like, throughout the film you're like, why is he doing this, or why is he, what point of his life is this? But you don't really know at the end of the day. But I think at the end of the day, I think each scene is so well made, and each scene is so well done, that it's like it's nearly a 3-hour movie, and it doesn't need to be. And I think that is part of that structure, the poor structure, because it's about two different things. It's about Howard Hughes' personal life and his work life. And I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's about Howard Hughes' work and personal life and how they intertwine and work. And I think that's the idea. And I think it makes for a fascinating movie, because at the end of the day, it is about that. It's about seeing his relationship with all these actresses, and seeing how, their relationship, but it's at the same time how that affects his career. So it's like you see him as a pilot and as an aviator, but you also see him as a lover and someone who's in love with all these women. So it's like it's a dual personality in a way, where the Howard Hughes, the Aviator, is completely different than the Howard, and that, or not completely different, but it's two different sides to him, I should say, which makes it fascinating. That's what makes it 2 hours 50 minutes, because they really don't shy away from either side. They really show him doing. It really has a structure of one scene as an aviator, one scene with one of the girls, whether it be Ava or Catherine or what's the other one, or the other younger one, and it's like you see, okay, one scene there and one scene there, and there's three distinct moments where the shift story changes, and that's with literally who she is, who he ends up with, and the courtroom stuff was great, and I think I love the whole lawsuit because it was so well crafted. The scene was so great because I love, he's making the way that Howard creates some great points in that scene. So, yeah, I mean, overall, it was like I'm mixed in this film where it's like on the one hand, I think it's really good, but on the one hand, it's like great moments. There's great scenes, but in terms of the overall story, it's not your typical biopic where it's about any rise or anything. It's just about him in a certain point of his life, and I think it's about. That's the problem. Is it's hard to really grasp what's the Aviator about, because I could say, yeah, it's about Howard Hughes creating these airplanes and stuff, but it's not about that, and I think it's really about. That's the problem. Is it's like, what is it about? What's the core of this film? What's the central narrative? Is it him as an aviator? Is it him with these girls? At the end of the day, what I took away from the film is it's just about Howard Hughes from a certain point of his life on. But that's the thing. There's no real story. It's Howard Hughes from 1 year, and you see him, up until a certain point. So it's not like you see him from one point to his death. It's really about a film that starts at one date of his life and ends at another date. One significant date of his life to another. But that makes for a film that you don't really know what the central purpose behind it is, but it makes for a good time. So I overall really like The Aviator. I'm not bashed on it, but just at the end of the day, I do ultimately really enjoy The Aviator. Anyway, stay tuned for our videos coming at you.